Islam was 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
By day.
To His holy prophet.
To His holy prophet.
Noble Jawali. Islam. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors, ordered to be read proclamation at every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical, agitating speeches while at work, in their home, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your cards are for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Jawali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is therefore sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Jawali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Jawali. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Jawali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Noble Jawali. And that's why many hearts have turned to stone, many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Jawali. Islam. I had an article in the archives by Oh, you want to push that door a little bit? Oh, yeah, hit the light too. This is an article by Dwayne Hubbard Bay. Explanation of pyramids, inner and outer self. Allah, the still small voice. Islam, the adept mind of man can read the symbols of higher learning. The Prophet said, if you would ask me what to study, I would say yourself. And when you have well studied and again asked me what to study, I would reply yourself. He who knows well his higher self knows Allah, knows of things that will not pass away. He who knows well the lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that will pass away. Allah the One speaks in a still small voice, and he who hears is still. But, try that one there, just look for still.
Still?
There's a lot more. He who knows well the higher self knows Allah, knows of things that will not pass away. He who knows well the lower self knows the illusions of the world, knows of the things that will pass away. Allah the One speaks in a still small voice, and he who hears is still.
This one. I need to still adjective.
Yeah.
Right. Still adjective. At rest, motionless, stand. Waters run deep, i.e., not bubbling, wine. Quiet silence, be a night, the small voice of conscience. Make quiet or motionless, without moving.
Right. So the small voice is still. The small voice stands. The small voice is only going to be revealed to those who are of like qualities of the small voice, which is still as well, right? So going back again to the class we did with Brother Kalimba, when he was talking about getting back into breathing and making sure that you find some type of time, right? Some type of time to put towards your self-reflection and your inner acknowledging of, your surroundings and ultimately what's happening within.
My knees. Touching the breathing. He told me to run. He's supposed to send me some stuff.
Yeah.
But she teaches yoga. She said it's so important because we think we're walking, breathing, we're not breathing.
Right. Everybody's not breathing from where they're breathing from over here. Not breathing from here. Right.
That's so true.
The pyramids represent the evolution of man, his spiritual and mental climb to perfection. Teaching of the spirit is to be attentive to the soul, that the spirit may actuate the flesh. You could check actuate. A-C-T-U-A-T-E. Pyramids represent the evolution of man, his spiritual and mental climb to perfection. Teaching of the spirit to be attentive to the soul, that the spirit may actuate the flesh. If a student is following the right discipline, people are sometimes forced by outer control to keep silent, but continue He's working. Let's get it. You all right? How you doing, sister? How are you? All right? Good.
So actually,
yeah, actually,
the verb impelled to action, motivate, also put in operation.
Did you start the book there? Did you start signing the book? You signed it? Everyone else did?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, just gave me.
The spirit may actuate the flesh. Go again with actuate.
Actuate. It's a verb. Impelled to action, motivate, also put in operation.
So the small still voice that speaks, once man hears that small still voice, right, through, well, we say it's meditation, through through meditation, through
It's probably a good word.
reading. Oh wow, so appreciated. Through your own learning, spirit self or spirit man has to be realized. And then once the spirit man is realized, then the flesh is going to do as the spirit says must be done. Right? And again, going back to, Noble Drew Ali, lessons in the Quran, lessons in the Silent Brotherhood, everything having to do with man taking some time, at some point, going into the catacombs of himself, the cavern of self, and figuring out self.
Working on higher self and lower self.
Always. Constant, and that is the building of the pyramid.
Within.
Right? Within.
Interject on that. I was literally talking about that with my cousin on the way here, and showing us like our people we love being our lower selves.
Yeah.
But it's like when you realize there's a higher self
To be, yeah.
When you get to that, it's like you're attaining to be on the higher self at all times. But then you know that the lower self is still there. Right? It's like a pull, right? Like how it says in the Quran, right? It just says the lower self he was wrestling with himself
the whole time.
The whole time.
Wrestling with himself.
The higher self out there, right?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's the same thing that applies on this mundane level, right? Yes. The battle. It's a constant battle, right?
Yeah.
The higher self never passes away.
Which should be the inspiration for man. That if the lower self passes away, but the higher self doesn't pass away, then it should be about moving toward the higher self, which is not going to pass away. And then that would line you up with everything else that doesn't pass away. Right? Teaching of the spirit to be attentive to the soul, that the spirit may actuate the flesh. If a student is following the right discipline, people are sometimes forced by outer control to keep silent, but continue to talk with mind because they have something to say. We continuously talk with mind or ourselves, proof we have identified with our environment, problems, and questions. We have identified ourselves with our thoughts. How, when the mind is calm, we expect higher ideas to be expressed upon it, and be able to look at the outer world more clearly without fog, glamour, or illusions. Know thyself and God Allah. The soul soul is of all knowledge, the most certain of truth, the most plain unto thee. Vaunt not thy body because it was first formed, nor of thy brain because therein the soul resides. Is not the master more honorable than its walls? This is the science of becoming oneself. No true knowledge can be impressed upon an agitated, talkative mind, one who is not at peace. Outer silence, to observe the inner state of mind. To decrease the possibility of reaction, the opportunity is given for one to concentrate more on the inner development. To develop willpower so that the mechanical side becomes more under control. This controls speech, emotions, feelings. There is a very close relation between emotions and nature. Silent man cannot be confused by talk of others because he can notice many people lie through their teeth. Through silence, he stays away from gossip and the complications gossip creates. Inner silence saves previous energy of mind, gives new life to heart, mind, and body, makes speech very impressive and strong. Those who talk too much cannot impress others because they have no thought in his words. Only a silent man can transfer truths. It's not words that lead nations, but the inner power that comes through the words. Allah speaking through man. Vibrations are thoughts. Rhythm, a continuous thought. Ethers, the substance or cause of thought. The secret of silence is peace. The secret of rejecting all carnal vibrations and building a psychic wall around us. The pyramid, the Great Pyramid, was a symbol of this achievement. The king's chamber was the innermost center in man where all physical were unable to penetrate, giving one a chance to focus his mind, passing from one level to another. The wall is built, but the devotion of the inner fire, which cleanses the emotional and mental. One's attention is focused on the inner self. The pyramid symbolizes one's head, where he must enter to find self, and hear the voice of your higher self, the Allah in man, the stairway to heaven. Islam. Just wanted to prop that out. Sister Selkett sent me a very interesting William Cooper interview. So there's probably about maybe 2 minutes or something that we wanted to take a listen to.
When I began, I had a great faith in the American people. I had a wonderful feeling that if just someone just turned their head away from the fantasy of their everyday life and the erroneous things that they had been taught and just gave them a glimpse of the truth, they would latch onto it like a thirsty man at a well who had just crossed the desert. I was very polite in those days, very nice, very forgiving, very understanding, very helpful to anyone and everyone that came along. And everybody thought I was a great fellow. Wonderful guy, that Cooper. Yep, just ask him for it. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Any information that he's got, he'll give it to you. Oh, and don't worry. If you want him to come and talk, he'll come and talk for nothing. And I did. For several years, in fact. Until one day, my wife and I and our newborn daughter found ourselves standing in a ditch with nothing. You see, the sheeple of this world had sucked us dry, hadn't done any good whatsoever. None of them were active in helping find the truth. No, they would take what bits of information I gave them, bend them to fit their agenda, and take off in another fantasy, flapping their wings over the horizon. And if it had not been for some good people whom we had never met, never seen, and to this day I do not know who they are, and I have no idea how they knew that we needed help. These little envelopes arrived in the mail with no return address, no signatures, no message, no nothing. It's $5 or $10, $50, $20. And we were able to get back on our feet. You see, somebody would call me and say, Bill, we want you to come and talk to our group. And I would think, I'll go. And I'll talk to the group and they'll help me defer expenses and they'll donate a little something to help us keep going. Well, I would get there and I would speak and they would all applaud and stand and say what a wonderful person Bill Cooper is. No donations, no help with the travel expenses, no help to put food on the table. And so one day I said, no more. This is what I do. These people who I am exposing have made it impossible for me to work for anyone else. This is what I do, and I have a right in a free country to charge for my work. So I did, and still do. And then at one memorable gathering, I was speaking, and when it came time for question and answers, one person raised his hand and I called upon him and he stood up and told me that the information that I had just spent several hours imparting to these people was no good, of no consequence whatsoever, and that I was discredited because he had to pay to get in to hear what I had to say. And that was another milestone. My faith in the American people began to ebb. And it ebbed even further when one day in San Diego, I was giving a talk to people and trying to wake them up. And about an hour into the program, a woman stood up and began screaming at me, yelling and raving, and froth was coming out of her mouth. And she said that what was happening to us is all my fault. It's all your fault. It's all your fault. You should have told us this years ago. And she began to curse at me. And then I would try to get on the computer nets. I still am, by the way, and have been off and on over the years. But I would get on and it would begin with something innocent. I'll give you the most recent example on the internet. And usually after several of these attacks, I would just leave and would not come back, or I would use another name and just stay on the net and never make any comments. Because I've discovered that people do not like the truth. They don't want to hear the truth, especially if it pings upon one of their personal agendas, or if they belong to one of the religions or secret societies or organizations that's involved in this and they don't want to confront it. Most recent example was there were posts about Pat Buchanan running for president on the internet.
But the point being that the people have, by the looks of it, they pretty much gave up on the truth. Whereas as more as we know, we have a certain level of information that could benefit our people's existence. and they're taking a position of not wanting to deal with it. One of the other reasons why I wanted to play that was for the people who are members, as well as the people who are honorary members. We're maybe by end of this month, we're going to be making transition to a new location. We're going to be making a move to somewhere else. Just right across the street. We talk to the landlord and all that stuff. Set up what we have to set up. We just have to get ourselves over there and get our legwork done. We have about 2 months to get the place, in order or whatever. But what we're planning to do was hire some people to come in and do whatever work needs to be done so we could have the place opening and ready to go for July 1st. So this is pretty much going to be our last month in this location before we go to the new location. The reason why we were able to acquire the new location is because we had 2 Moors they've been in the temple for a while, and they pretty much, between both of them, they pretty much dropped 9 G's for us to get the place, be able to put the finance into getting the work done over there, so we could be open for July 1st, right? This is about us being self-sufficient. This is about us making sure that for ourselves, we're doing this. We're not doing this for any others, please, bro. We're not doing this for any others, because we're the only ones that know what this is about, right? We're looking at having continued the museum there. We're gonna have access to kitchen, so 5 principals could actually have a place. It's a two-level spot, so we're also gonna have access to a basement, which we want to make the basement into a lounge, if you will, where Moors could use that space to do their studying. The women's group could use that space for after-school programs, or whatever committees could use that space for meetings or whatever. And also the upstairs space, because of the size of it, being able to rent it out to people. Maybe outside people who have certain things that are in harmony with what we're doing, yoga classes or whatever, right? Where we are right now is getting people prepared to commit themselves to a year of dues payments, whatever type of support it is that we need. Like we're talking about, we're starting up the committees. So all the committees now having, place where they could meet, have their meetings, do whatever it is that the committees have to do to, get their ball rolling. Each committee, right? We're also looking for, and you can put this out to other people who are out there, we're also looking for people who are, well, we're looking for 5 people. If we get more, even better, but we're looking for 5 people to commit themselves to $150 to $200 a month for the year. And with that, they have access to the lounge space on their time for whatever they want to do, whether it's going to be 20 hours a week or how much ever time, right?
There's an allotment of time.
Yeah, there'll be allotment of time that those people who are making that donation are going to have access to the space to do whatever it is that they have to do relative to, where we're trying to go as a whole, right? Pieces, right? So we're looking at July 1st to be over there. Again, this is going to be last month here. Majority of the things that we're doing here, we're just going to carry over there. But there's going to be extended things that are going to be starting up in order for us to, one, keep the place going, because we realize that, and Brother Omar could probably talk to this quickly. We realize that it's the activity, it's the people's activity is what keeps this going. It's the people's involvement is that what keeps this going. You had anything to add on with regard to?
No, just this has been. I mean, if we have, if we see this for what this is, which is the building of the nation wouldn't be in a 24 by 12 room. The nation is out there. You see how the so-called Canadian nation is running de facto. They've got buildings. They've got this area which they've taken from us. So we're taking it back, one building at a time, let's say, as an example. But obviously, having more space. All of us who've been here know how it gets when there's 15 of us, 20 of us in here, and it's hot and that kind of stuff. So we know that we're starting to have some other programs, the jurisdiction, the jurisprudence stuff, the events stuff. It's about going out there and getting our people and starting to activate on that level so that we can be respected as nationals, which is what we should be, rather than some people looking for some grants, some granted privileges. But that's what this is about. So this is just a natural course of events. We need more space. Women's Auxiliary wants to meet, want to have a place for children to teach children and stuff. It can't be done here. Let's say we wanted to have a class for the children right now. Could not be done here right now, could it? Right? So we need more space. So that's what we've done. So we've now answered that call. So what are you going to do now?
And again, it's due to the people's involvement thus far, right? All the people who are behind the scenes, you know, the treasurers, the secretaries, the muftis, the whoever, all the member people, all the donation people, all the online people, all the online donation people, you know, all these individuals played a part in this next evolutionary process of what we're doing, what we're accomplishing here. Right? Go ahead, Mark.
So just to you know, first of all, we should be saying thank you.
As long
as you who have dedicated and put your time, fiat, and finance into this. Because it is due to you, the dues-paying members that's done that. But just to let you know as well, there's been a other group within this group.
Yeah, I told him.
Yeah. Oh, you did.
Yeah.
That has found.
Yeah, you can talk about it too, because I know you have a different perspective.
Yeah, that I understood and saw this from a perspective that sometimes we need a little help. So some of us decided to go that extra little bit to make that happen. And I'm going to tell you, and Cujo can speak to this, that as we've started to walk in that path, things have started to change exponentially for us. And I will.
Well, just to touch on walk on that path. So, what initially we had individuals take posts. This is also why the committee thing came up, because we realized that, you know, multiple heads are better than one head. So
as long as they're working,
as long as they're all working in the same direction for the same thing.
Understand that that's absolutely the way it has to be. And if not, then you become a useless head.
Right.
And become dead weight.
Right. So in the past, we've had individuals hold posts, and we come to realize that the financial post has to be multiple people looking at it or putting their attention to it because of the magnitude of accounting and all the things that go into the whole financial aspect. On another part to that, Nobuju Ali stressed the fact that finance is really what, you know, economic slavery is really our plight.
He says a beggar nation can never attain its highest spirituality.
Okay, so as the adepts, we said we're going to take the financial initiative and have multiple people looking at it. At the time of doing that is when all this stuff started. You know, the vortex is just open, right? We had a meeting here one day, went outside,
came in here to take a look at.
Oh yeah, to do our inventory,
take a look at the books,
see what's here, write down everything, whatever.
For moving forward, if you have a bookstore, you need to know what's going on, right? Instant that happened, walked up the street, and the building opened up for us. And then,
and then from that, you know, spoke with the people there. You know, they wanted to check this out, see what we're gonna be doing there, because they had I think some church group or something that wanted the space as well.
Well, in fact, we're right next to a church group, which is singing out loud and long every day on Sundays. So they didn't want another one of those, I would guess.
Yeah.
They seem to be saying.
Yeah. And then with that, had, you know, the members come forward, put down their 9,000, just not asking them, whatever like that. Just out of the you know, recognize that you guys been doing some stuff. Here's whatever. This might be like 2 days after we got the spot, right? Or spoke with the people about the spot. So, you know, the fans are being flamed. The flames are being fanned right now, and it's an opportunity for us to prove something, not just to everybody else, but also to ourselves, about how much we are for what it is that Noble Drew Ali had laid down or left for us and for the posterity. The main point is to strongly stress how important it is that the people, like we read every class, that the people see this as yours. It's not Omar's or Cujo's or anybody else who plays a quote unquote grand role. Like, this is more yours than it is ours. Right?
We are servants to you, but only from the perspective that you are the master. If you're not acting like a master and doing masterful things, then likely the servant has to look after stuff, and that's what's happening now outside there. The so-called servant is running the show because we haven't mastered ourselves.
So all this is part of the, you know, the same concept that we were talking about earlier with the man being the pyramid. You know, we look at, you know, if we want to look at the nation being the pyramid, the temple being the pyramid, the committees being the pyramid, the school being the community, whatever it is, but that same idea that, you know, we have to turn to ourselves. The only way it works for turn to ourselves. Only works for the Jews because they turn to themselves. Only way it works for any Moorish Latin speaking nation, they turn to themselves. Europeans even turn into themselves. Mormons, Masons, whoever. Turn within. Have their little oath, have their little clique over here, and nobody else is not benefiting from our stuff. Only we're benefiting from it. And this is the same place where we have to be going now, because this is, you know, if again, like we said, there's sometimes when we have things here and we're busting at the seams here, right? It's just at that level right now where expansion has to happen. Now, with regard to the honorary people, we're speaking about this idea of even up to now, you know, we've been around since 2008, and even up to now, there's still people who are not where we're at that support us because they don't have this where they're at. There's nobody doing classes where they're at. There's no temple where they're at. If there is a temple where they're at, they're doing something that the people who, you know, want to be part of that don't even want to be part of that. So they chose to say, okay, well, you know what, we're going to ride with Canaanland Moors or whatever. And we opened up the doors to honorary members so that they can say that they're part of a temple. They belong, they have a grand chief. When they're a Moor and they're walking around and somebody says, who's your grand chief? They can say they got one. Even though there's no temple physically where they're at. So what we're opening up for the honorary members now is that same concept of if you've been down with this and people already know they've been giving their donations or whatever, they've been paying their dues, you know, there's people, there's honorary members that pay more dues than some people who are here. Not physically here today, but in Canaanland. There's people in Canaanland who never paid dues, and there's people who aren't here. They don't get anything other than online classes, and they're paying their $25 a month. No questions, no arguments, no can I get something for my dues or whatever. They're just doing that off the strength. We're putting it out there. Same idea, 100 a month, 200 a month, 400 a month, whatever it is that you can support with without being destitute. And now you have access to send your documents to Canaanland, get them sealed. You need witnesses. We got Moors here. If there's no Moors where you're at, send your documents here, we'll seal them. We got a seal out here. Right? We have a temple seal. If you're a member, then you have access to the seals just like any other member. Right? Again, it's out of necessity why we're doing this. So again, it's just another level of evolving. That, you know, there's more people for us to look out for. There's not just Canaanland for us to look out for. There's actually people who are members who've been supporting since 2008 that are out there that never ever even been here before. Never walked in between these walls before, but they've been here. Never ever got anything sent in the mail, DVD or T-shirt or book or anything like that. But they still do what they have to do every month since we started. So again, we give thanks to everybody who's been supporting and continuing to support. And you know, we just will that this is going to be a move, the next level up for us. You know what I mean? And then after this level, we're going to get a building or build something for ourselves or whatever it is. This is.
Thank you. So I just definitely the email you have up there, so like there's no transfer dues there. So
Yeah.
It's not.
So all yeah.
I was just going to say yes, you can. And what's going to be happening, because obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but we're trying to continue to evolve and perfect the process. But eventually you will be contacted in the next couple of weeks, and then you will be sort of like what do you call it, brought up to speed or sort of inserted into your position as a national who's putting this stuff forward. So your name will go on a list. You will then be thanked. You will then, in the new spot, we're planning to have an appreciation sort of what would we call it? A
mural.
Yeah. That will sort of that will allow everyone to understand the same way when you go to a building and they have the plaques of all the people that have put their finance forward for those things. If anyone's gone to those buildings where you see thanks to these people, that's what we're going to do over there. And that's done by the process of you helping build your nation. And that's what everyone else does. So why shouldn't we be there? Remember, they took that from us. So yes, so what will happen, you put your stuff forward, we will contact you, and it goes on, and we continue to build.
So any dues or donations, the new email that you'll be sending to for email money transfer or for PayPal is mstofa.dofornation7@gmail.com. mstofa.dofornation7@gmail.com. And that's strictly for donations and dues. Any questions or anything relative to anything else, you can still email canaanlandguide@gmail.com. And also too for the honorary members, the people who have emails, because we got some emails off the PayPal, we had some emails in the list that we had, but just to confirm your membership, you can send an email to canaanlandguide, CANAANLAND, canaanlandguide, GUID @gmail.com with your free national name and whatever email address you want us to be in contact with you if anything is going on. If we have to send you an email for anything, you can at least get a hold of you. Right. Please, Mark. Anybody else have any questions or comments before we move on?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not really towards anything. It's about the committees actually. Like for the horoscope thing, if you're a Taurus, like what's the moon sign? I don't understand.
Can you speak up?
For the committees, because Tesla was asking for the sun and moon sign. I was wondering how do you see which is your moon sign? I don't understand.
So when you could go online, you can do this yourself.
Is it the planet considered the moon sign, and then if you're a Taurus, that's your sun sign? But I don't understand.
When you go on, online, you look up natal chart, right? When the natal chart pops up, it'll ask you name, date of birth, place of birth.
I guess I'm putting
yeah, whatever name you were born with, right? From this information, you're gonna get a lot of information, but what we're looking at is sun sign, moon sign, rising, and then all those will be whatever constellation. So on my reading, I have Taurus, Gemini, Aquarius. So on the wheel, so on the horoscope wheel, whatever your sign is, the sign opposite of yours, right? The sign opposite of yours, you'll find out that you and them have good relations. You find out that majority of the people in your life who have been good friends or in favor of you, whatever like that, they're going to be either 2 signs to the right or 2 signs to the left of your sign, right? So for example, with myself, being that my moon is Gemini, I look at really controlling my emotions, since the moon deals with the feminine principle, right? And then because it's Gemini, now I'm double everything. So all the emotions, I'm double, right? So once we have what these are, your sun, moon, rising, once we put the committee together and then we have everybody listed as to what their moon, sun, whatever is, then we know what type of energy that committee is gonna have, so we can know how to direct them where to go. Then the other committee is gonna have whatever energies, and then those ones will be directed where to go. Opposed to freelance, the committee is gonna do what the committee says. No, the committee is gonna do what the stars say. Right? So once you go get the natal chart, and that's free, or you can go get, there's Mars out there who deal with astrology on a higher level. Brother Hassan is one, Sister Raz, Sister Sharice. There's ample Mars out there who deal with the astrology on a more grand level than this. This is not even basic. This is below basic, as far as what it's about, with the whole idea of the natal chart. So yeah, so that's what that is for, and that's where you would acquire that information. So once you plug in the information, it'll send you a printout of all that stuff, and then you can go with what it is that you get. Or you can have somebody who's actual astrologer do this for you, and then they would give their interpretation of what this is told from an astrological perspective, which is just going to be a broader thing than what you can get just being, quote unquote layman looking at it. All right. Anybody else got any questions or anything relative to this?
What's the website for that?
The specific, if you just look up free natal chart, whatever comes up, it will be the same concept, same idea. But that's why, me myself, I would just use the astrologer. You know what I mean? And let them have them do it. And then once they do it, then they'll relay to you, a better perspective of what it is. Yeah. This is a good intro book.
Right. So when you tried, what the result you get?
Well, so with majority of our people, they would go into all different schools of thought to know about themselves, except astrology, because the word is that that's not really a religion or whatever. That's New Age, so it's related to devils and jinns, and it's real. But everybody has a birthday. Everybody uses a calendar. Everybody knows what the sun is, moon is, or whatever like that. They're not looking at it devilish from that. But as soon as it's time to put it to themselves, now they don't want to deal with it. And a lot of that could be because of who they are, right? Them looking at themselves from an astrological perspective is going to bring out more truth about themselves that they're not ready to deal with, or maybe don't know how to deal with. Because stars aren't going to lie. They've been there longer than people. So you can't go wrong if you go with the stars as the guide, right? Which is why we say, Allah is our guide. Because Allah is really Allah, A-L-L-L-A-W, which is the universe, not some Islamic god of Muhammad or whatever.
I wanted to know what did it make you realize?
Like for me, myself?
Yeah.
For example, with the Gemini energy, right? There was a lot of neglecting, because we came up machismo, play sports and masculine or whatever like that. I was let's say you say hard, right? I wasn't able to bend. If you bend me, I'll break. Right? That's where I was. Brittle. Right? So in recognizing that these are the energies now that also make me up, because we get caught up in the sun sign only. not recognizing that sun sign and the moon sign and the rising and all the other parts also make us up. And it's just different lenses of us looking at ourselves. So looking at myself, I realized that, okay, I need to get more in tune with the feminine parts of myself in order to make myself more limber, right? And then in doing that, that would change my interactions with people, right? That would change people's interaction with me. That would make my thinking be different. How I look at stuff. When I look at stuff, I can look at stuff as, I can look at a flower as a man or as a female. If you look at a flower as a female, you'll be a little bit more delicate with it. You know? Right? You know? Yeah, Mark.
Just to speak on, I don't know exactly what your question had been, but DNML speaks on the fact that we're all one. The masculine and feminine principle is one within you. Most of the time, what they've done is they've separated us from that, so that even him speaking specifically about that from his astrological sort of reading or natal chart, we're talking about that principle across the board. That masculine men should be thinking more about their feminine partners, let's say, as an example. I would say then that would probably create a lot more harmony. Yeah. Right? Because in our neighborhoods we see that, and I see it played out. I'll speak from the I position that most of the time you go to the neighborhoods and it's like those bees, those whatever, you know what I mean? There's a certain way that men typically treat women, or at least see them ideologically. And it's only when you get beyond that that you start seeing, well, really, we're all one, and women have a masculine energy to themselves too.
Right.
And then should be looking at, you know, and but I think women are much more ultimately attuned to that anyways, because of just who they are as the creators, right? So that's where I say that we as masculine energy need to continue to always, I think, we'll continue to try and nurture that side of it.
Right. So, so like with what you were saying in regard to the two being one. So, Kudro is the masculine, Ado is the feminine. From Monday born, right? So to balance myself out after finding out this stuff and then saying, okay, I'm gonna pick the name based on what I got in the reading. I was like, okay, I'm calling myself a male name and a female name. So I'm not ever gonna forget that I have to remain balanced.
Yeah, balance is the best way.
Right? Okay. So that's how like I used it. You know what I mean? Engaging with people. You know, if you're gonna, you know, in ancient times they would say even relationships. It's not, oh yeah, I love her, so that's why I'm gonna marry her or whatever. It's the stars say that she's who or he's who you're supposed to be with. Because when we look at this, when we look at the longevity of this relationship, this alignment of you two people shows that it's gonna go farther than if you just go on your lower self, or how you feel, or emotions, or you know what I mean, love at first sight, or whatever like that. That has no bearing on, you know, I mean, sometimes it'll have a bearing on, you know, the astrological occurrences, but most of the time, once you're using base emotion, it's not even gonna amount to what you thought it's gonna amount to. You know, but guaranteed once you check the stars.
So OD doesn't go to your roots.
What are you saying? Historical roots, or because you know roots is, you know, spiritual roots, psychological roots, you know, physical roots, like how much times you've been on the planet. That might be
spiritual and physical.
Well, for again, we're looking at, you know, like each sign right? Each sign is one of the elements: earth, air, fire, water, right? So that's its own spiritual breakdown. Which element are you, right? So if you're an air element and you are with somebody who's a fire element, you might make them burn you up by fanning them because you're air, right? If you're a water sign and they're an earth sign, you as the earth sign might be the stability of the water sign, because water can't do anything without some type of mass to hold it, right? And then those just go in whatever cycle, right? And again, you're looking at are we looking at this exoteric, which is the physical, or are we looking at esoteric? And we say more times than less, look at the spiritual or look at things from the spiritual perspective, opposed to the physical. Because if you look at it from the spiritual, it will eventually lead you to how the physical is supposed to be. Or like we were reading earlier, the spiritual is going to agitate the physical to be what the spiritual is. Right? If we have, for example, spiritual look at court, right? What day they calling you to court, right? Well, they're calling me to court on June 25th, right? Well, okay, well, on June 25th, moon's supposed to be here, sun's there, Saturn's there, Uranus is there, da 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 da. Okay, well, you know what? Based on my chart, that day is not a good day for me to go to court. I'm gonna call them and change the day, another day, make up whatever, and switch the day, because that's not a day for me to go. And then if you even do it on that level, and you realize that, oh, they have me set up to go to court on a day that the spiritual is not lined up proper for me, might also mean that they know you better than you know yourself to even bring you on that day. If they're gonna bring you on a day that no matter what, you go in there, you lose, they win. Imagine they do that with everybody. Imagine everybody's court date is based on the people at the court taking those people's birthday, do a natal chart on them, and then they say, okay, oh, this one has whatever, so we gotta bring him in when it's a half moon. This one is out, we gotta bring them in when it's a full moon. This one, we gotta bring them in when they're whatever. And they have the whole thing listed down like that. And then that's how they pick who goes to court. We'll have a whole different perspective of what court is when we go there. If we look at it like that, that's how they're doing it. Not that you just went there. Huh? Oh yeah, exactly. It's across the board. Right? Because everybody's dealing with some type of science. Everybody's dealing with some type of spiritual existence, you know. Right. And they're using it against the oppressed because the oppressed don't know. They're not using it against the oppressed because they can use it against the oppressed. Because as soon as the oppressed know, now they can't use it against them. Right? Mainly us. Mainly our people are the oppressed. But also, mainly our people are the ones who don't know. Right? Yes, sir.
Speaking on the things that you're saying, like I was reading on certain things like what people do in preparation for going to this court.
Yeah.
And it's like they mentioned like rituals and all this other stuff, like high conference and
right.
It's called Alabama or something. It's I'm not to say I've ever done it myself.
Right.
But I'm just inquiring if this is even something that as a moral we should practice.
Well, a good example, even though it's supposedly fiction, a good example is Devil's Advocate. The movie Devil's Advocate, right? And then they went to go see the witch doctor before court, and then they hammered it in the tongue, and then the judge couldn't talk when it's time to give the verdict, and then they just said, forget it, dismiss everything. So, you know, it's the way that they're presenting it, you might not be able to do that, but there might be something, you know, again, going back to the whole natal chart, knowing what the energies are, what energies work with good in you, what, you know, what's your birthstone. You know what I mean? Maybe just having that stone in your pocket is the only ritual that you need. You know? You might have a dream of some object, right? And then, you know, you wake up and you're going through your day or whatever, and then you find the object that you dreamt about. And in the dream, the object was, you know, your lightsaber. You get Darth Vader or whatever. You might want to put that in your pocket. It might be something that, you know, because of your intentions, you know, you might just draw a circle with that outside the door of wherever you're going to. You might, you know, bury it in the back of their building. Anytime you go there, you have no issues. Doesn't matter when they call you there. Just because, you know, and that's one of the things with like what you're talking about, that you know, you're not gonna go get some, you know, spell book and then you're gonna say, oh yeah, 2 pints of whatever, and then put it in the cauldron, and then you're gonna, and that's what it's gonna be. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to put your own energy into it in order to make it actually be something. I know, Julia, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit on that, because I know that's your realm.
People practice those stuff for
Yeah, so
as saying, like, I'm into like the crystal thing too. My cousin and I too now. It's like the birthstone thing, like the crystals. They have a lot of healing power. Certain stones that I've been looking to recently, like, you know, getting into the stones, and you know, for instance, if you have heart problems, you know, like there's a selenite. You can have a selenite stone with your crystal with you to level off, you know,
right, whatever energy.
Yeah, whatever energy you take out that blockage inside of you. And going to court for going to court or something, you know, I don't know about the whole brewing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So it's true. They say the high John root. It's similar to ginger.
Yeah.
But you chew it prior to just walking as you're chewing it, and you're supposed to discreetly spit it out prior to the judge
going in.
Yeah. And it's supposed to bring favor or whatever.
Yeah.
There's different. I don't know. I'm
interested
in reading.
Yeah. And I always relate those things to placebo.
Yeah.
So it's really your thought power.
Yeah.
Like it might be that thing, but it's probably they really want to get out of it.
Yeah.
And they're chewing you, and they're chewing. When I spit this out, I'm gonna spit this out with the energy that, and that's really what it is. It wasn't even the stuff that they're chewing. It's just all this mental. Right, exactly. You know what I mean? Same concept. You know, and you know, like, and again, you know, like Sister Juliana said, there's certain people or experiences that you have that, you know, okay, yeah, people can do those stuff. You know what I mean? That's not far-fetched. That a guy's gonna go check the witch doctor before he has to go wherever he's going. You know? Just because. Yeah. But again, like when they say, you know, witchcraft and they give it that idea of spookism or negative or whatever, that's really to keep the people away from it. It's not really that. Because witchcraft is really nature worship. Like witchcraft isn't witchcraft like that. You know what I mean? Like it's
witchcraft really like.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like even those ones, like when they say black magic, right? When they say black magic and 5-point star and the Baphomet and all that is good things. Those are negative things. The negative part is when you get into sleep paralysis and something's holding you down while you're sleeping, or somebody conjured up something and sent it to you, and now you got to deal with this thing that's on you or whatever like that, right? But when you go through, there's a thing called there's a book called I think it's a Dictionary of Demons. When you go to the Dictionary of Demons, you realize that majority of demons are good. They're not evil. Actually, they have the look. They give them horns. They give them 1 foot. They do all these things to give the appearance that it's negative. But when you read what they are, these things, all these entities that they're talking about, they also have a higher self and a lower self.
In ancient times, man used to have the ability to control the demons.
Right. Yeah.
Your inner self. Like metaphysically, that's like the answer. I've heard that. Like the inner self.
It's manipulating the energies again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's manipulating those. So you still have those abilities, but we are practicing. You're not connecting with it.
Yeah. Like when you for example, when you look up if we say for example Shango, right? Shango's not demonic or whatever. He's a protector. He's not gonna again, once you get to the encyclopedia or the devil dictionary, and you actually go through all the demons, and you realize that the demons aren't negative stuff. It's presented like that so that we say, and this is why in ancient times they were able to control the demons. Because they have to be for good for them to control them. Right?
One of the biggest, part of the introduction, the biggest one is the star.
Yeah.
They use a star as, because I know I'm Jamaican, like my family, they're Jamaican. Yeah. And the star to them is I know a thing that,
yeah.
That's theirs, that's what they're.
You gotta look at it like, the King James, right? He wrote demonology.
Right.
So that's why people think that way.
Yeah.
Good, good, really good.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Like for example, like any demon that they're saying is a demon of whatever, right? That they're gonna call and they're gonna do some whatever like that, whatever. Like none of those demons I would put before European Jesus demon. None of them.
No difference because in these times it's not the same case, right? It's demons controlling people in these times.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, you can make the same for yourself. So much people are getting possessed.
Yeah.
Those are just different names. Like remember the dragon and the beast, right? Lucifer.
Yeah. It's all their lower self. It's all them. It's all the individual themselves. So, when we look at all these different versions of demons, is really different versions of our lower self, of our inner demons that we project outside of ourselves, so we don't have to deal with it. If the demon's over there with a pitchfork, then I can go over right here. I can be in this corner with Jesus, and I don't even have to worry about that again. When he's with you, when you're over here with Jesus, ain't no demon left you because he's over there with some horns or whatever, or he's under the ground with some horns. That's where the demon is. You know? Yeah, bring it up, bring it up. Let's build on it. Because it's about clarity.
See, we were made to be light. We were made to be children of light.
Right.
Yeah, but because of it is a balance, right? But
we can't all be light all the time.
No, it's the thing that happened that Satan do exist, right? So when Satan comes to corrupt a lot of people, right?
Right.
So that's how we think that we were made like that. We wasn't supposed to be made like that. Because we're children of the Most High, right?
Right.
We're supposed to be light. But because of the corruption,
yeah,
that's what made people who them is.
Right.
Don't mean to cut you off. So Satan. Who is Satan to you though? Like what you said Satan came.
The spirit.
Yeah. So that right there was the lower self. The lower self came, right? Remember.
You have a spirit that's what you.
Yeah, we all have spirit. We're spirit men. Which can never pass away, right? Right? And then you have the two selves, the higher and the lower, right? Lower self passes away. Those are the evil, anything that harms. Anything that harms, greed, wealth, selfish gain, all that. That's the Satan that you're referring to. Right? But that passes away, But the spirit man, the higher self, that can't pass. That can never pass. But I know exactly what you're saying. That came and now we're in the position that we're in, right? Satan came and now things are bad. But remember, that's going to pass away, which is passing away, right? To attain to the higher self, which is never going to pass away.
And to add on to that, brother, young Mooral just mentioned about while y'all speaking, he just said you're talking about Goku. Right? And the thing is that it's a video game kind of thing. I don't know if you know Dragon Ball, but what it is essentially about a young boy coming from another planet. And when he looks at the moon and the moon, the full moon, he transforms into this beast. And the beast is part of him, and the beast is actually what killed his grandfather. But in order for him to come into his true self, he had to conquer the beast from within. So
because the only way the evil spirit is going to come is if the people are not in control of their lower self. If the people are in control of their higher self, ain't no Satan coming around children of the light. You know what I mean?
Say that last part.
Yeah.
So what did you just say the last part?
No, I said yes, I will attain the higher self.
Yeah. And the way they were saying that is by how you live, right? In terms of the purity that you live.
Yeah, that's remember, there's need, right? There's wisdom and
so those are the principles.
Right, yeah.
Through knowledge, through wisdom, through that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think if you could, I understand what I sense it is it's all the same, but it's our understanding of it that changed that. So we are all light, but it's our understanding of it that has us in this
what is light, yeah.
That has us in this form right now.
Yeah.
That's right. So if they don't even have understanding, they can never even get to that
level, right. Right.
And that's why I say the sciences are all the same. They say there's only one creator. It's just how you interpret it.
How you interpret that,
right? Or how you've been taught it, let's say, or how you understand the knowledge, right?
We're not disagreeing with what you're saying, but
well, I know he knows that.
No, it's not correct with what he's saying.
Because even a saying I heard before multiple times that even the devil was an angel once or whatever.
Yeah, right, yeah, because all the demons are fallen angels.
Yeah.
All the demons were one time all on their higher self, and they fell to their lower self.
Sounds like the irony.
Right? You know what I mean? The irony that the devil was once God.
And they say he was a light bringer.
Yeah, right.
Technically, but
yeah, exactly.
They're telling you
gospel.
Yeah. So they say that the
pastor not interpreted.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Right?
The pastor's not going to tell you that.
No.
Right. Exactly. We got the plan. We got the plan. We're just gonna read a little bit of the moral ABCs of astronomy's eternal, all one God faith unites the human race. For with the bomb and gun, we're all one or none. All one. Dr. E.H. Bronner, Essene rabbi and soap maker. Does anybody use Dr. Bronner's soap? Dr. Bronner's Castile soap. This is his book right here. Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, you do. I do use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
This is his book right here. See what he knows.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. See.
So we're gonna go to wisdom of the ages. Wisdom of the ages. Intolerant half-truth is our only real enemy. Calm, clear, constructive, full truth is God, is God's law, is the kingdom of God's law. Our only real eternal faith, ally, friend, and leader. Today, there is no other leader. There never was. Thank God's eternal law. Thank only God for that. For when half-true hate is gone and all of us are dust, the full truth we print, protect, and teach eternally unites all one. Full truth is God. Exceptions to Muhammad's wisdom? Absolutely none. In short, half-truth is the enemy, full truth is God. Count that day lost when low descending sun views from your hands, no worthy labor done. Exceptions none. We do not reap with what we sow. Thank God we don't. For the past 6,000 years, in an all eternity, we reap only from 3 to 3 billion times more than the constructive good. That full truth, that good seed that we sow in harmony with God's timing, teamwork, wisdom, power, mercy, love. Of any half-truth, hate that we sow, we reap nothing but dust. For example, Hitler's 1,000-year Reich, Stalin's dictatorship of the proletariat are today nothing but half-truth hate. Dust, exceptions none. The intensity of man's emotions is a greater driving force and more decisive than the sum total of his education, logic, friends, money, plus the size of his brain. Exceptions without the moral ABC? Absolute none. On the plains of hesitation lie the bones of countless millions who at the dawn of victory sat down to rest and resting died. Anything that helps unite me and all mankind is good. Anything that divides me and mankind is bad. New York Columbia professor Max Eastman, after 7 years as Lenin and Stalin's guest, had the courage to confess in 1929. Socialism's absolute unselfish, free, and equal one-world brotherhood state in reality is utterly unworkable, intellectually, parasite half-truth, tolerant hate covered up by double talk, fraud, perjury, concentration camps, slavery, and barbarism. Exceptions, absolute none. Through millions of dark centuries, we ascend up, evolve, fight, grow, work up from dust to fish to bird to beast to ape to man to good to God. We ascend up by full truth constructive evolution, uniting one God state. Thank God's eternal law. Thank only God for that. In one world with atomic bombs, we're on the mountaintop, the crest and crossroad. Today, our new 6,000-year young love and teach love, brother love, that constructive good, that God within each and every human being must become more energetic, more hardworking, more united, and more intense than our old fear-driven kill, or killed self-love. Peace one. That power and glory seeking beast within each one of us always has been and still is. Self-love must serve brother love. Half-truth must yield to full truth till half-truth socialism, intolerant hate is replaced by hard-working full truth. Free speech and profit-sharing social action uniting all one God state. For when half-truth hate is gone and all of us are dust, the full truth we print, protect, and teach alone eternally unites all one. Full truth is God, it must. The trouble with the world is that the wrong people are always most energetic, united, and intense, while the hardworking people are scattered, divided, and less intense. The trouble with the world is that the wrong people are always the most energetic, united, and intense, while the hardworking people are scattered, divided, and less intense. That fact alone brings Hitlers, Stalins, and parasites to power, and that fact will only change when we change. That is when we teach the Essene moral ABC, 6 billion strong, instantly uniting all mankind, free with barbarism gone. Free by teaching only full truth, God's law eternally one, all one. Under one God, one all-embracing, ever-loving, eternal Father, we're all sisters and brothers, exceptions eternally, absolutely none. Yeah, if anybody has any thoughts on that, you could.
I walked up in the Tim Hortons the other day and was still there Wi-Fi, and I seen I'm pretty sure reading a book, she was reading the Bible. You know, and I was like, oh, that's my book. And she was like, what do you mean? Like, that's my book. She's like, nah, it's God's book. I'm like, yeah, that's my book. And she was like, why would you call yourself God? And as you're reading that about half truth, if I would have just left the conversation there, it would have just sent a lot of mixed messages.
Yeah.
So I said, because the book says so. And don't let nobody tell you that you're any less. You have to comprehend what that word really is defined to be, and then know the meaning for yourself. And she's like, oh, there's only God, and there's only one God, and he's above all. I said, you know what? Even in the book John 8, he mentions that ye are gods. Is it not? Matter of fact, the Old Testament, is it not written that ye are gods? Because they're blaming him for something, and they're saying he's doing something. I know you're not the child of Abraham, you're not the son of Abraham, and he's telling us this before Abraham was, I am. I'm just clarifying, bringing things into context. So from me showing her that, I realized that a lot of people don't know truth to be defined as the brother brought last time, divine truth. You know, a lot of people don't want to look at divine truth because even though I was breaking that explanation down according to the site that I had, it still wasn't
registered.
Nah, it's just she's bypassing that, you know. So it's biblical.
Yeah, and that's part of the mechanism, you know, of dealing with the lower self, not wanting to deal with the truth. So as soon as every time they bump into the truth, or they find a way to get around it, or not deal with it, or whatever.
As simple as like quoting a chapter or a verse, there is no one true God. They say it's either Lord, Almighty, High, all in the same verse and the same chapter, citing different names, and everyone's so it's like is the person who wrote that schizophrenic,
right? Exactly.
Or is it truly that they're talking about different people or different beings or different lords, you know, most highs, Almighty. These are different. Like you have to understand this, that there's a difference.
Yeah.
And she was an advocate for Christianity as well, as I noted. As I was talking to her, and I asked her, I said, you know what? This Jesus character, whose title is actually Yehoshua, he can be found in many other religions. What is it that Christianity brought? No, I ask, what is it that's in that book that cannot be found in any other books? If Yahushua has been mentioned in all other religions, and there wasn't really a clear answer.
And even with the thing that you're saying too, like, you know, it's the same thing with all the different stuff that they say is the devil. They bring up all these different stuff, all these different things that are devil. Same thing with the higher self. Give it all these different names, and then have all the people confused as to which one is the real one, when all of them are just aspects of the one thing. You know? Anybody else got anything for what we just read?
Yeah, what I understand, what the scripture is really saying is not only one God. There is many gods.
Right.
But he's also saying that thou shalt not bow down to other gods.
Right. Which is the sign that, you know, the multiple are aspects of the one.
He's also saying, I am the God that brought you out of the land of Egypt, right?
Mm.
You're a God. That's what he's saying,
right? Right. Now, if God is saying that he's the one that brought you out of somewhere, right? But then there's people down there that have nothing to do with him that brought those people up, then that guy is only those people's God. He's not the God for everybody. He's just God for those people who he came from.
Well, if you know, in the Quran, I'm reading it now. Well, they're both similar, but the Holy Quran that's read for Mecca.
Yeah.
In the Middle East, it's not Middle East.
Yeah.
But it tells you that it tells you that Allah has sent you the Torah, the Gospel, and the Quran. Yeah, He gave you your own. Right? He didn't say I could have made. He gave you only one book for one nation. Right? He gave it to you for your own personal use, I guess you could say. Right.
And that even goes with people's culture too. Like when you look into culture, you know that the French have a different culture from those in the Caribbean, as to say, you know. So I can see why that would be different. It's just
and again, it's all going back to this right here. Are we looking at it from exoteric, or are we looking at it from esoteric? Once we look at it from esoteric, then we're looking at it from a spiritual perspective. So once we're looking at it from a spiritual perspective, then we're looking at the elements taking place. You know what I mean? When you say, you know, they're talking about, you know, a God in the Bible said that, you know, said whatever, or a God in the Quran said, or a God in the Torah said something, and people are looking at that as the God. We as esoteric think they're saying, well, what about earth God? Well, what did earth God say to somebody? Well, how come that's not in the book? How come air God's not in the book? How come fire God's not in the book? Because
that was actually doing all these things in those times. Is it or is it not? Yeah, is it?
Is that the God?
Yeah.
Like, okay, like for example, the Hebrews say Yahweh, and then pre-Hebrew would say El Shaddai. Are those two the same God, or are they different? Because it's a different name.
There's a difference between the name and what is, right?
Right. So we know that.
That's why it said I am.
So did the Bible come first before any other book?
I will do what I do. I will do
and then I always hear. I was actually just Richie, Jeremiah. I was just reading. Jeremiah, what is nature? So before anything was written, I was reading it. And as Grant makes all the time, before anything was written, it's common sense.
As long as everyone.
You're gonna move? All right,
2
Mark.
weeks from now, next week. That's cheap. So,
Peace, Mark. Travel safe, yo.
I'm going to I work in a union, so I'm going to the Aboriginal workers and workers of color. To check out I've been battling now with them last year about color. And they told me before I showed up there, they had a huge debate about color. Because certain people didn't want to be recognized as Aboriginal. So I'm back there to try and change it around. We'll see what happens. I got a whole stack of the newspapers. I got DVDs up the wazoo, and I go in there and I got the Masons in the back going, and they're like, oh, so you a Mason? And the guy goes, yeah, if we toss you on anything, we'll have to kill you. It's crazy out there.
I'll send you my love.
Oh,
Yeah, he's definitely gonna need it. Where he's going. The other section that I wanted to touch on was Confucius absolutes. Confucius absolutes. It is an absolute full truth that the first law of God, tremendous universe, is order. Absolute, all-embracing, ever-evolving, full truth, discipline, loving order. Exceptions, absolute none. It is an absolute full truth that everybody in God's tremendous universe must eat or there is no body. To shine on, eat must even the sun, consuming every second on its surface, meteoric matter, 100,000 tons. Exceptions, absolute none. It is an absolute full truth that every ounce of good food on God's earth requires constructive teamwork in harmony with God's timing, wisdom, power, mercy, love, or there is not an ounce of good food left above. It is an absolute full truth that any man planting 10 fruit trees in harmony with God's timing, teamwork, wisdom, power, mercy, and love can reap 10 million more. Exceptions, absolute none. It is an absolute full truth that only constructive working men built all civilization and everything good that's in it. Exception, absolute none. It is an absolute full truth that parasites, in order to eat, must dominate, dictate, distort, complicate, deny, free speech, smear, slay, slander, cheat, or they won't eat. Exceptions, absolute none. Whatever truth unites us all in one God state is 1,000 times more important than whatever may again divide us by half-truth hate. It is an absolute full truth in one egg we grew up free, teaching full truth, unity in one God state or decay, enslaved tyrants, half-truths hate. It is an absolute full truth that every swallow always is a perfect pilot, providing builder, explorer, lover, mate. None imperfect, misled by man's half-truth hate, parasite, blackmail, slave. So even obedient man can evolve like every swallow until hardworking is free brave. It is better to light one small candle than to cuss the darkness. The fully true written word, the pen, is mightier than the most brutal sword if guarded by 10 brave men. All out intensity in teaching all men the full truth that unites one God state is our first and most sacred duty for the survival of this and all future generations from half-truth hate. Moderation, tolerating the denial of free speech by 256 different half-truth academic tyrannies, isms, and religions is our greatest crime against this. The last generation unable to survive, divided on God's spaceship Earth, exceptions, absolute none. The full truth written word is mightier than the most brutal sword if so used. That is, if 10 brave men use full truth with the same careful preparation, full cooperation, and sudden lightning-like concentration as we godless fools always use the sword, exceptions, absolute none. Since 600 BC, the full truth that unites us in one God state is more important than whatever may again divide us by half-truth hate. Free speech is to mankind that air is to fire. Deny, delay, distort, ignore, suppress, in oblivion, all expire. Free speech, kind man, air, fire, all expire. There won't even be dust. Unite, we must. Unite, we must.
That's called Islam.
Yeah, pretty much. From The Army of Principles by Thomas Paine, 1799. First principle. A human being works hard to teach love. A human being works hard to teach love his enemy, to help unite all mankind free, or that being is not yet human. So go the second mile, hold the other cheek, brave not me, for we're all one or none, all one. Small minds decay, average minds delay, great minds teach, all one today. Win victory and all stand by you. Give up, all deny you. Remember, the only difference between the brave and the coward is the brave has an ideal to fight for, such as teaching the moral ABC, that at once unites the human race in all one God faith, as teach Abraham and Israel, inspired by the messenger of God, the sign of the Messiah, Halley's Comet, the blazing star of Buddha, Bethlehem, Muhammad. Listen, children, eternal Father, eternally one. We can no longer live half slave, half free. We unite the human race in all one God faith, or perish by half true hate. We're all one or none. Abraham Lincoln. I've never stooped so low as to hate any man, for I've learned that in the long run, all mankind needs, wants, loves, whatever good work you've done, regardless of your race, color, nationality, or religion. Booker T. Washington. The trouble, I quote this one again, the trouble is that the wrong people are always the most energetic, united, and intense, dividing the high workers to lose in self-defense. The fact alone brings Hitlers and Stalins to power, and that fact will only change when we rally, raise, train, evolve, unite the whole human race with the moral ABC in all one God faith. The intensity of man's emotions is a greater driving force and more decisive than the sum of his total education, his money, plus the size of his brain.
Spiritually inclined, but doesn't know how to convey it onto the realm to those who are not. Or she is spiritually inclined.
Who's their author again?
Dr. E.H. Bronner. There was something here in the...
And the title, can I get the title of that book?
Yeah, The Moral ABC of Astronomy's Eternal All One God Faith. The Moral ABC. And there's an interesting These days, this is Michael Bronner. I guess one of the sons or Michael Bronner, Vice President of Dr. Bronner's. These days, I find myself inspired equally by the contents of my grandfather's message of peace and unity, and the fact that he had the courage to put it front and center on his labels. It's one thing to use words like peace, joy, and love on a label, but it takes real guts to put Muhammad, Jesus, Hillel, Abraham, Moses, Buddha, Confucius, and Halley's Comet, the messenger of God's law, right in the middle of your signature product and not worry about ruffling feathers. You live your values and put them out there for the world to see. You don't shrink from controversy if that's what it takes to make this world a better place. At all times, be authentic, be genuine, be of service, be of clear purpose, and above all, make your actions have positive consequences. Islam. Anybody got any questions or comments? You can send those up right now.
We used to say all of us stuff.
Yeah, it's just like we were talking about. It's man's perception. But if you really look at beyond the beings, you'll see that the message of all those people are the same message. Buddha's message is the same as Jesus. Jesus' message is the same as Muhammad. Muhammad's message is the same as Confucius. Confucius' message same as whoever else before them. And it's a relative truth that they're speaking.
They call it the tradition then. Is it the tradition the same?
The tradition?
Yeah.
Well, if we look at if we look at Christianity and Buddhism, right? A Buddhist is gonna say to pray. A Buddhist is gonna use the mantra this, right? A Christian is gonna do this or this. A Muslim is gonna go on and use, and then they're gonna do whatever. But it's all the same thing, trying to commune with the higher force. But depending on, say it again. Well, like with the Dr. Bronner, if the actions are for good, then it has to be from the higher source's inspiration. If the actions are for good.
Remember, the higher power actually instructs us how we should praise him, right? How we should show our love for him, right?
Right.
Yeah, but all those things that intelligence do, does it align with what the higher power tells us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured from the way you're saying the same thing, you have a perspective or concept of who you think the higher force is, or what direction that message came from to say, okay, that's credible, to say the others aren't that. But I guess you're coming from a biblical kind of perspective, and that's more or less the common perspective that we were taught, and that most of the world runs off of, whether it's modern day Christianity or Orthodox conventional Islam, modern day Islam. But the two, you say, major dominant religions that the world are operating off of, right? So if we're going off of what the Bible says and what we are taught, or most of us are taught, indoctrination or indoctrination, it's not religion. But that's the word of God, right? Yeah, but it doesn't mean that it's religion. But it's your interpretation of the word of God, right? Is what we're supposed to follow on a certain level.
Yeah, actually, the Bible is actually instructions and history, right? And a book of prophecy and a book of laws, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, the instruction in the Bible now tells us not to go down the stones. We're not supposed to have using images and those stuff.
Right. Yeah.
All those things. Does this religion line up to what the Bible is saying?
Well, that's first, is the Bible so credible that it can discredit these other religions?
Because it's considered
exactly, it's considered. It's accepted as that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's what it is. It might be what it is now, but before that, like those words were written into that book, and then they made that book, and then they put a hard cover on it, and it said Holy Bible, and they put a flame on it and stuff like that. All that stuff was done to it. Those words came from something else that might have been more ancient than that itself. Right. And then what was extracted from that, those ancient words, all of it might not even have been put in that manuscript that we call the Bible.
You have to remember that the Bible is,
and then at the time the Bible was written, we could call it the Word of God, but it was still a man or a woman, most likely man, because it's a patriarch, more or less a patriarchal book on certain levels. So it was more likely man who put an imprint on that, saying where did man get the knowledge?
Yeah, where did man get the knowledge from?
You know, I used to think of too, like when I was younger. I was thinking like it was just like, you know, like you got an inspiration, which you might have, right? You know, divine inspiration comes to you, and then you're able to transcribe certain things and say certain things, but it's still.
Let me ask one question. All those things, right? Some of the things that in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Does it manifest?
Does it manifest?
Yeah, I'll give you one. Sorry to cut you guys off. Leviticus, you know Leviticus, right?
Yeah.
It says in Leviticus, it says the trumpet of the horns. When it said that all people be proclaiming throughout the land, and then we'll be giving back our stuff, right? And what I take from that is proclaiming, and we know what proclaiming is, right? That's what we're doing right now. We're coming back, and we'll be giving back our stuff slowly in a way that cannot be told in words. Right?
And that's manifested through symbols, like another manifestation of the book is not as blood.
It could come from interpretation, but also it could come from like it could be coded, like it could be written in a way where, like, I write something today, and then 20 years now I carry out what I wrote and call it prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we acknowledge most of the things manifest, right? So how would man just write something so much millions of years ago, right?
And then it manifests. Yeah, well, look at it the same way.
If you could think that the Most High could send us vibrations, and then those things come to pass, and that's pretty much mystical because that's unseen and unheard. You just have to imagine it and hope that it happens. It's the same concept.
It's like a ripple in the water turning into a giant wave.
Oh shit!
A
tsunami. Yeah.
It's like it started so small. It's inevitable. It's going back to like the symbols of prayer and like this. All of these things are most practicing.
And then you have to maybe grasp the concept too that we were that intelligent back then.
Because you see, like what the whole aspect of, well, one thing is that the comprehension, the whole comprehension is not going to be done in a, you sat here one time and then now you get it when you leave the door, because you came to a class. Just like the guy who said, okay, I'm going to put the Bible down. He didn't do that one time. He didn't just sit there and then the book just appeared, and then now, how long did it take to get those 500 pages or whatever? How much stuff manifested that probably didn't even make the book? Just because. How much stuff are you going to, if God works through man, right? Because we know that God's not writing. So if God's not writing, then man had to write that. And if man wrote that, then it's up to misinterpretation in some parts. Because you have people that's gonna say Jesus on the cross or whatever, but then Acts is gonna tell you that they hung him on a tree. So who's right?
And again,
you know what I mean?
The same Jesus. He said Jesus come to save his people. Good. His people. Come for his people. What are his people? Okay. Then describe him in the book. Hair look like wool of a lamb. His skin look like burning brass copper. Okay, good. The same Bible. But in the church or wherever you go, you don't see that kind of look in Jesus. How about that? Who's right? No, we never go to who's right or wrong. We're not going to who's right.
Yeah.
We're talking about what the Bible
says. What it says.
The Bible just tells us that Jesus come to save his people. Good. Because the topic is Jesus. Subject was. Anyway, now, who is it? Show me the closest picture of him. They show you one picture. Blonde hair, blue eye, and whatever it is. Hold on, bro. But when you read the Bible tells us his skin dark, like, and in here, only no other human on this planet up here like so-called nigger here. No other one. So who is he talking? Common sense. Who is he talking? Who?
And then that's the thing where like when you talked about the dodging, it's an internal battle of hearing something that might not be along the lines of where you might have got your information or whatever, right? Yeah, like for example, like there's people who are against this that by now they would have left already. So I already know that you have a different mindset coming in the door, that you're gonna consider some stuff. You might go home, think about whatever. There's people they even make it as long as you made it. They would be challenging, questioning things. They heard certain things. They heard us talk about witches and all that stuff. They're out the door. No questions asked. They're all right, thanks very much or whatever. We never see them people ever again.
4 years ago,
you know what I mean?
I remember when I came on by, I was yo, I don't know, I was a Hebrew Israelite 4 years ago, straight up. Like I came with fringes and everything, you know. And I was reading. This brother was there, this brother was there, and this brother was there, and then a few others. And it was reading on the Korean gospel, and it was mentioning about the host was a Moabite, he came to save his people. And I'm telling him, no, your host ain't no Moabite, yo, give that back to them. That ain't our stuff. And this brother right here mentioning, you know what? What you're saying, take into consideration, also have an open mind of also what's being said. And that was 4 years ago. That was approximately like 3-4 years ago, roughly. More than that. Probably, yeah.
I've been here 4 years.
Yeah.
For real, 5 years. Yeah.
Said that somebody shocking to you know.
And we're not saying that you
the
don't
bottom,
have anything
you know,
to add to what
it's right in your face, but
it's all an exchange of information that's taking place right now.
And nothing's chance. Everything's a reason. So there's a reason why you're here. There's no chance of me being here.
No, it's not like I have a close mind, right? Because
Or you don't have a close mind.
no,
Yeah, trust me. Trust me. Yeah.
Like expanding, right?
Yeah.
Thing is, the overstanding, right? Overstanding. Like when you look at the word like Israelite.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to become an Israelite? Are you able to become an Israelite? He's asking.
In order for you to become an Israelite, you have to know who is Israel. And then you have to know Israel's purpose was to bring forth the light. And then you have to know that that's why they got punished, because they didn't bring forth the light. They're like, yo, look, it's my gear's light. But you're supposed to bring forth the light. It's not the gear.
Yeah, but an Israelite, it's more like the language. We're not changed that way.
Right. Okay, yeah.
So Abraham was an Israelite.
No, Israelite came from Jacob.
And Jacob came from?
Jacob came from also Abraham, right? And from Isaac, right? Yeah, but the nation starts to build from Israel, because that's the promise, right?
What's the definition of the word Israel once more?
Israel meaning the children of God, the children of light.
Yes, sir.
Right?
So I'm not shining. I'm just, because I know we are all Israel. Even if we want to acknowledge it or not, even if we want to take heed to the Bible or not, we are all Israel.
Yeah, that's what I said, right? It's both physical and both spiritual thing about us. But what we have to have the spiritual part. That's why most of us are lost today.
Most of us the spiritual is what is lacking mostly.
Right. Most of us don't even know what's our tribe, how we should live, how we should carry ourselves, all that stuff. Cut off from all of it.
I hear what you're saying, brother man, but I just want to mention this to add on, not to take away, but to add on. You see, when you read that book, it talks about covenants. Yes. And when you're looking at the covenant, we as a people, we see that there is a divine covenant. And that divine covenant was put in place from the very beginning. Therefore, that was the comprehension that that's why there was one language. But if people are not going to see the divine covenant and try to make a counterfeit of the divine covenant, then it's going to cause confusion of faces.
Like when you say for example, like when we say everybody's Israelite, right, based on blood lineage, right?
Yeah.
Would you say because of blood lineage, Yahshua is also Israelite?
Yeah, he's also.
All right, well, he comes from Ruth, who's a Moabite. So that would mean that Israelites and that's not what.
That's not what Scripture said. He's from the lineage of Judah.
Yeah, and then that goes back. Because Ruth is the matriarch of that chronology.
And also, even with Ruth, what had Ruth to be acknowledged as what she is that she took heed to the divine covenant. She took heed to the divine perspective that was already within her. And even Solomon himself, when people look at, even in the Apocrypha and those kind of things, what Solomon is bringing out is the wisdom. He knows that, what, this divine wisdom is always and can only be expressed from a feminine principle.
That's why whenever he's talking about I am wise, yeah, I am wise because he depends upon the feminine principle to give that wisdom. It can never be expressed from only a masculine. That's what makes a man wise, when man submits to the divine truth.
And when we look at the submission, once you submit to the truth that, like we were reading about, it's all one thing, then there's no splits or breakups or variations or whatever, because we're looking at it as this is all just different levels on the same stair of steps. Everybody's going to the house of God, but every step is a quote unquote religion or a religious leader or whatever, and all of them are going in the same direction, and everyone is a step for one to get to the next level up, and you continue just like we say, became Christian, and then we went to Islam, then we went to whatever, and you know, some people stay on the step that they're at. Some people don't want to evolve. Some people are content just being on that one level. That's just what their existence applies for. And then there's others who are willing to expand more. So there's people who they study chematology, right? They study ma'at laws and things like that, but they know that they're connected to all the other stuff, even though they might not come out and say I am or whatever based on a religion or an individual that brought a certain faith or whatever. They still have a connection to those things, not well, that has nothing to do with me because I'm not connected to that bloodline or I'm not whatever. It was like this sister we talked to from West Africa, and she's saying that, well, everybody who lives in West Africa came from ancient Kemet, because everybody came from there and then went westward when all the pillaging was going on there. And all those people who went westward and ended up in Ghana, Nigeria, all these places, their descendancy is actually ancient Kemet. And this is from somebody who's over there. And then she knows about Yoruba and she knows about Christianity and Islam and all that. And she said, yeah, from a religious perspective, we're all these other different things, but we know that we come from ancient Kemet. We know that we're Cushites.
And even when you read about Jeremiah also, that's what actually helped Jeremiah. It was them saying Babylonians, Cushites.
No, I didn't read it. You got
it. Let them know who was first. Have the genealogy.
Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. Right? So these Bethlehem Judeans got together with Moabites. The same way that Haile Selassie was Orthodox Christian and Empress Menen was Islamic. Everybody's trying to put this stuff together and show that it's all one thing. And then the status quo is this is not one thing. All these things are separate things. You can't say that this person is related to that person and that person, but then, you know, like we say, if we have family and we're born in Toronto and then our family moves to Chicago, they're not now from there and then they're not from here and we have no connection to them. We're still family. We're just in different geographical locations. Because whether we take Israelites, Moabites, Canaanites, Hittites, Amalekites, whatever, all these people are dark-skinned people. Ain't none of them people Europeans. Ain't no European Canaanites.
Remember, it says the most like it's a difference between people, right?
Yeah.
So the difference between Canaanites, Moabites,
yeah,
Israelites, right?
Right. And what were those differences?
Difference meaning nationality-wise, meaning their language and genealogy. Yeah,
all of, but not to like get into like Bible stuff and like religion and division and all that, because that's just a whole bunch of confusion.
That's what that is.
That's just a whole bunch of confusion that's just dark and it's deep. It gets too deep, you know, and it's just still bringing confusion to this day. When you look common sense now, you have a belly button, right? I have a belly button, right? From what our teachings in the more science of America, we're taught that one mother has given us all a son, right? So we're all coming back to one, you know?
What you just said?
No, go ahead.
What he just said is exactly the perspective that Paul was speaking from. The Israelites killed him.
So we're all related in
He
one.
said, yo, bonfire on genealogy. You saying you come from this tribe, you saying you come from bonfire on genealogy. He said it straight. Either in Colossians or Corinthians or one of them things. But they couldn't see that.
All right.
That's
So,
what
all
brought up.
Which Thomas one, what not to know?
Wait, don't mind me asking, where you from? Like, which island from? Which island from?
Which island I was born?
Yeah. Okay, what's our motto? What's our motto in Jamaica? I'm Jamaican too. I was born in the yard, so you know what I mean? This is you and I can, you know, we're from the yard, I'm from the yard too, right? What's our motto? Out of many one people, no?
Yeah.
It says out of many one people, right? So out of many, we're all one people. But you can't disqualify people in a sense because people, if you look at it in today's society, it means corporation. So you got to say we're all natural people. Out of many, one natural people, right? But that concept right there is so common and such common sense that we've lost sense of that. Knowing that part right there, that out of many were one people.
So like if we look at for example, if you look at the Asian stock of people, right? They're not separating themselves based on cultural differences. They all know that they're Asiatic. There's no dispute amongst them that, well, because he's Christian and because he's Buddhist and because he's Islamic and because he's whatever, that they're not part of the bloodline.
That's not make
But I'm gonna answer. Just take what he's saying into consideration. But I'm gonna also answer the question: what was the reason for the whole separation, and that, you know, why the Most High created boundaries? I mentioned of it before, the culture. When there is a difference, when there are different cultures, things have to be expressed differently. What is that? Even when you read in, it's still, but even though it's expressed differently,
variation,
one slogan. So even in the end of the book of Numbers, no tribe could have intermingled with no other tribe. Judah could have intermingled with no Benjamin, so-called. In the end of the book of Numbers, you read the very last chapter, it mentions That's why when you get into the book of Judges, why they all went up to go try and bust the Benjamites, because Benjamites were just doing their own thing. All the left-handed people were just doing their own thing. So what we have to see is, what we have to do is just see and reveal the cloak that, you know what, this was all put forth for a separation. Why are you going to go to the school to learn about yourself and you're the one that built the school and taught the students how to run according to how your mind functions? That's a book that's written about you, about a people who do not even know nothing about their own selves.
Yeah. And that's all the holy books, not just Bible only, right? You start talking about Torah, and then European comes up with a yarmulke and he has the, you know, curly sideburns or whatever like that. That's not his stuff. He adopted that. The Islamic people, these people that we see today, and they say, oh yeah, Middle Eastern, and those people are the real Muslims or whatever like that. They're new to Islam. Islam's really esoteric. Islam's really mysticism. Like it's not a religion like how we see it exercised today. Like that's not original Islam.
Or the Islamism, which is the way of life, right?
Right? This is.
I like to say I'm glad you came here today. And all in all, it may ask you a personal question, like what brought you here today?
I get up this morning and I said, you know what? I want to go out and be amongst my people.
Islam. I said the same thing.
Right? So, and I remember the sister in a story, right? We were listening about certain knowledge, right? And spirit tells us, call the sister.
Everything's a reason.
So that's why
No.
Yeah.
I self-reliance.
That's something. See, itching. You're itching back there. See, itching back there.
so how come it end up to be a different meaning?
How come?
Oh, question.
Yeah.
I was talking to him what Islam mean, and he asked him how it comes to mean something else.
Because there's the religion, and then there's the way of life. The Islam, and then there's Islamism.
And it's terrorism.
Sometimes it's interpretation, correct? Yeah, it was left for a certain time, and then say a new set of people came on, and they are delving in that information. But now, maybe a certain way it was taught, they won't be able to be grasped by them because of the time they're in. So now it has to be taught different, right? Because in the scriptures, in the Bible itself, like if you read them, like that's the thing, we like to pick what we want to use, right? But everything's there, whether it's what we call it good or bad or whatever, it's all relevant. So Joshua clearly says in this Bible or in that Bible that I came to show you, like in many of in the New Testament, Matthew's thing, and Luke, Mark, all of them, a few of them, it's the exact same thing. After he reincarnates, says, I come to show you, I'm just here to be love in flesh manifest, pretty much. I'm just here to show you that you could be like me. That when they say the way to me, the way to the Father is through me, not necessarily, well, not necessarily. People interpret it as I have to praise Jesus and Jesus died for my sins, and if I call his name and and then ask for forgiveness or because he went on the cross for my sins, then I wasn't saved. No, that's not what it meant. It meant the word and the works. Like, be like me, do what I do, say what I say, live like me, and that's your way to God, because you are God in that way. I'm coming to show you that you can conquer the flesh on certain levels. So I came in the physical form to express myself in a way that you could be able to understand what I could do. And know that you could do the exact same thing, but we just thought we have to look at him and follow his example and hope that things are happening. No, you have to lead by that example.
And then that was all that perspective was all the prophets.
Yeah.
From beginning of time until the most recent, that was the same thing that they told everybody. Hey, you know what? You know you're a God or whatever. They ain't out here praying and worshiping wood and worshiping stone and all this type of stuff when you're a manifestation of the Most High too.
Piggyback off on Juliana's story when she talking about Islam. So that's what it means. Like, you have that manifestation of God in you, because, and then throughout those scriptures as well, there's parts where quote unquote Mosai is talking and he's saying like, what do you mean you're recognizing your brother? I mean, you're recognizing me, you're saying you love me, and you don't recognize your brother right in front of you. And then the next one, oh, we're made in his image. So those things we can't try to neglect.
Yeah, bypass.
Sometimes we have to take those things literally, because there are literal meanings of them. Right? So us chanting Islam is we're just embodying that power. We calling you God, and we calling the feminine energy or the feminine principle goddess, is because that's what we originally were. So like you said, we were trying to be spiritual, right? We're trying to be back spiritual because we were already that. It's not like we're human trying to get closer to God. We fell from God, and that's why we're having so much trouble. So now we're trying to get back to our full God state, our original state of being.
Until we see that the only way to be spiritual, as the brother mentioned, is you gotta really let go of these genealogies. So that is like mental chains. Those things, like it's mental chains, you know. Like you see it clearly when you the New Testament can be confusing if you do not know what the foundation is. But you know, even the ocean meant something like the cornerstone that the builders refuse. You know, that cornerstone has to be placed there properly. But if you don't know nothing about the elements of the earth, you have no idea about how a motor is and how to mix it and how to even use the tools that are given to make the motor. You don't know how to do those things, then forget the cornerstone. You gotta get the basics, you know. We all gotta get the basics, and realistically, the reason why we all gotta get the basics from a TV show that I'm constantly plugging myself into for the youth sake. It says that elite do not neglect the basics.
And also what I get from that cornerstone concept is like one of the builders refused. So like a lot of times the thing that we're actually supposed to be putting our focus on and doing on, our attention is towards something else, because that's what's prevalent right now, or that's what everybody's on. So that thing that we're actually supposed to be doing, we just neglect that, we put it to the side. And then later on, then we realize like, oh, okay, this was in my front of my face all the time, but it just wasn't in my immediate, existence, because my mind was on something else. It's like what they're saying earlier. Whatever we're looking or searching for information, whatever we want to find, that's what we're gonna find.
It's like financing. We heard about Marcus Garvey, Selassie, Joshua, Jesus Christ, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. I never heard about Noble John.
Serious.
Why I never hear about Noble John? All these other ones, I never hear about Noble John. Why?
None of them.
You ever hear about it?
None of them are more important.
Oh, there we go, bro.
Yeah,
the most important man. That is the man that make me know who I am right now. And I'm telling you, here is Selassie, here is Marcus Garvey, and I can show you them all. Okay, there you go. Big Marcus Garvey. Never heard of Noble Trolley? Man, these things can be shocking, though. They can be shocking. We are in the right place. You see, it comes up your body. I'm telling you. It is.
You know.
Noble Trolley.
And that's what it's you know, like when we're talking about you know, the bloodline and that we're Moors and proclaim your nationality and all that stuff. That's the same thing that we're about. We want to be with our brothers and our sisters, but we don't want to be with the brothers and sisters who are warped-minded or confused or they really don't know what's going on. We want to be with the ones who are the light. The ones who recognize that they're the light. All right, come on down. Let's be light together. Just like they said in the thing, be one dim light instead of cursing the darkness. Right? And all of us know that we want the light. All of us know that we are the light. Once we realize that we are the light and we know that we're the light, then darkness ceases to exist.
It's hard to grasp, like, you know, yourself on that type of plateau, but if you understand the simplest concept of that, we're an extension of the Most High. We're connected. So if we're an extension, and the Most High made us, right? And if the Most High thought us up to thought, and then we came to fruition on the physical plane. Like that thought was us before we manifested on the physical plane. So that thought was the Most High's thought. So that thought that the Most High's thought is the Most High. So that thought that's us is still the Most High. So we're one with that energy. We don't separate from it. But once you know that everything becomes one, or everything is one, then you realize the connection with everything. And then you don't start separating everything. And you realize that certain things might have been twisted or might have been never told or distorted. But it's all relevant, all comes from that one source. And through time, whatever might have their own agenda and their own purpose, because we do have that devil and God in us. So when that devil activates and wants to do what it does, it's going to try to serve its own purpose and not serve the purpose of one, of the oneness.
In geometry, like we saw the digitating itself. If you look at it from that perspective, why we have this state, but many so called duplicated a long time did so.
Yeah. It's so simple because, for example, we go back to Marcus Garvey. I'm from same so-called Jamaica. The parish, the school of Marcus, I go there too. I used to know an old man in my younger days. He's the only man was alive called Coffee Rose. He grew up with Marcus. One-on-one, he tell you about Marcus. And the things they teach you about Marcus Garvey, it wasn't nothing. Because when I realized how Marcus Garvey become in the United States and become so powerful, and I have a newspaper that couldn't come to Jamaica, never wanted this newspaper on this. That's how much he never wanted to know about. When he was in prison, nobody tried to go and visit him. I never ever know that. I never ever know that. And right now my backyard, Marcus Garvey. And now it's when I find out all these money. You see how much it's suppressed?
Look at the music now too, right? There's, of course, we have artists now who are, trying to distract you. But your artists like Kanye and Jay-Z, for example, Jay-Z will say, "How could you falter when you're the rock at your bottom?" Right? Most people don't want to be able to break down what that means, right? Read, I'll give you a book. You should go read. Moors of Spain. And you're gonna learn what that means, and then you break down. This was you. You were. How do I say this? You were when you came into Europe. You brought light, like literally. You saved them from what was going on, from that destruction, from the Visigoths and so on. And then just knowing that alone, and then moving forward, you're gonna be just being here alone. You'll be fine.
I heard as part of the introduction. I heard Jamaica even had street lights way before certain places over here.
One point Jamaica.
Of course.
Jamaica's
This is another place with a train. There's a train, and there's you see like how they have subway here? Wait a minute, you see how they have subway here? When they try to do the roller thing to make a subway, the train runs through a length of that back wall, it goes through the wall, the cave. So that's like a tunnel already. So we have that tunnel already before. I'm telling you. We have that tunnel where the train goes through.
Yes, this last couple comments and we'll close out.
I'm gonna direct it at my brother right here to my left. Since he's been the focus my appellation is on the deeper shore. But it's funny, like when I first came here, oh Lord, that was my first. I was here early, and it was open. Allah the universe. Everybody chanting. I'm like, what the heck is going on? About love, truth, peace. And I'm like, yo, what is going on? Where am I? And at the end of the day, after getting accustomed to what is happening in this room, because I never experienced it before, I realized that what I was experiencing was homage, which is nothing wrong with it. And after all of the homage, you open and you close, you experience love. What you're experiencing right now is love. You know, like everything that we're saying, everything that we are sharing, our personal experiences, things that we learned, we are all still growing, growing and learning and open to caring and exchanging. But everything you are experiencing right now is love, peace, and wisdom in our own experience. So after I started to understand that and do my own learning, because for the Hujo, I was gonna say cordial, but Brother Hujo, he has been here for all of us in teaching and sharing and in many other ways. If you get to it in the network of what is being built and starting to build, you will understand this is somewhat just like a family if you don't know. You know, and in addition to a family, if you already have one, you know, so it's like
we got a distinction.
what family is, but whatever.
Brother here, brother north and west. So relatives and family.
Yeah, everybody can relate to that.
Yeah, so it's like at the end of the day, whatever he teaches, I go back and I study myself because you can't flesh and blood man, whatever he's professing, it might not be what it is. But if you read, if you research, you'll find out for yourself. This is just an opening. It's just like a door opening, and you might be exposed to certain things, and you learn yourself. You'll hear things, everybody's coming to teach with different perspectives of what they learn, and you'll hear something that you connect to, and you hear things that you don't. You know, when you connect to a certain thing, when you connect to a certain thing, I'm telling you, it will lead you straight back to everything that everyone has said here today. And then you will, you know, you might not feel it now, you may feel it later, you might not feel it at all.
As someone said, welcome home, brother. Welcome home. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, so you see, I never come here because of what I think of what is, right? I come here because of basic. Like what you said, we experience love.
That's what I come here for, like, you know?
Because I'm not sure that's not true. What are they apostle
It's about gathering, right?
Because remember, the churches were supposed to do that. Okay? The churches were supposed to do what we're going to do, which is teaching our people how to be better citizens. Right?
So,
remember, before the churches was what? Remember, Jesus' mother, parents found him in the temple, not a church. Right?
It's a school.
And he was at the temple disputing with all these people out there who call themselves they know something.
Just like himself.
You know what I mean? He's schooling them. They thought they had some little child in there talking or whatever. They didn't realize that he knew he was God already. So they couldn't put him on any knowledge that he didn't know already. You know?
The God thing, you know, the condition where we are in the condition of life.
Well, I mean, our people aren't. Yeah, our people aren't. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they're not.
Doesn't mean that they're not.
Because they haven't grasped that they're that. Doesn't mean that they're not that. Just like we say with our people, we know that they're Moors, even though they say that they're black. Say that again? Yeah.
Well, I know why you're laughing, because certain of them like,
no, but yes, man would take it on to themselves, right?
Yeah, yeah. But again too, like it's the same thing that if I tell, yeah, but if we say yeah, but it's, yeah. But it's just like everything, it's just like you tell a man, hey, you know that stuff that you cook tastes good. Well, you know, that might not be every time if he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it's a thing where we're looking at it like you might not get it here, but in your subconscious mind, later on, somewhere down later on, something's gonna tap you into that's what it meant when you're calling me God or whatever, and then you tap in.
Since I've been on it like 10 years plus, most 9 times out of 10 when I see a female, that's what I refer to her as. Now, the last past 5-6 years, I see on TV commercial thing. Now everybody is this God is talking. Now this God is talking becoming prevalent. Yep. So, the same way they put the black and certain other concepts in our mind, right? And those names and those concepts and those definitions come with certain things, come with a vibration and an energy. That's what we're trying to do, reverse the polarity now, to bring that God energy back. Even if you don't know, I see it in you. Whether it's that little, the smallest spark, it's there. Because just like we were saying before, we're an extension of the Most High. We're one with the Most High. So if the Most High's name is God, then my name is God. Because I am that thing. Right? It's a hand, right? And the hand is considered God. And then there's 5 fingers on that hand. And all 5 of them look different, but they're still part of that hand. Right? And one's called a thumb, one's called an index, one's called a middle finger, one's called a ring finger, one's called a pinky. But they're still all fingers coming from that one source.
And like with what you're saying, we can say, you know, we're going to give the pinky finger the index finger power because, you know, pinky ain't really got no power and he's not ready to be an index finger. So we're going to call him, and everybody starts pointing like this. Eventually they'll be like, nah, we're going to have to use the actual real one. We can't pretend to be God because somebody said I'm God. You know what I mean? Eventually, they themselves are going to have to come to the realization that, okay, well, you know, it's a process. You know,
certain fingers can't move without the other one moving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you don't move a finger, the nerves are so connected that half finger has to move too. Right?
Yeah. You know?
So yeah, even if they don't see it, they're still that thing. They're still the God.
So yeah, I mean, you know, you're gonna get that. Yeah, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get people that you say certain things to, and you know, they might take advantage of what they were told. It's no different than with this. You tell Moors they got rights, now they want to go out there and they want to take their plates off and all that stuff. They want to not pay taxes and they want to just do, when they just found out yesterday that they're Moors.
That's why the prophet said,
You know what I mean?
can't wake us all up at once.
Yeah, that's Joel even said it. You can't wake us all up at once. If you wake us all up at once, we might tear the whole place up. If all of us wake up.
Not to deal with Jesus. The horse said, you know what, let's be offended. Yes. Are they supposed to pay taxes? Do the children pay taxes or do the strangers pay taxes?
Right.
And he said, no, let's be offended. What was going on right now? You wait them all right now. As we're saying, Babylon get done now, you know? But when you hear it now,
Mooral, you ready? I know you've been waiting since last week for this, bro. Where's your? Can't forget.
Where's your winter fest? Is that oh, how about winter fest?
Can't forget the stuff, bro. Well, I'll come back here after you, because people have to see you too. Remember, you're talking to those people too, right? Hold on. You can see yourself. Sorry. Very good for you. Do these things. Ready? 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Father of the universe, Father of truth, peace, freedom, and justice.
God is my protector.
Allah is my protector,
My guide, and my salvation.
and my salvation.
My name,
By night,
and my day,
and by day,
through its holy prophet,
His holy prophet,
noble
noble
Islam.
Islam. Islam. Yes, sir. Give thanks, Darrell.
I give my hand. I guess that's a
Matriarch rules. Matriarch rules, right? Where you find that one there? Where did you come from? Islam, Boris. Peace and love.
His daughter was in the camp last